Morning. Welcome to Horizon Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Beth Blake-Hedges, and I'll be your worship associate today. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am joined by our worship leader, Reverend Chris Rothbauer, whose pronouns are they, them, their. As we prepare for our service this morning, please be sure to check your order of service for important announcements about congregational life. Now let us join our voices in our responsive welcome. You'll find the words projected on the screen behind me. To all who are yearning for community, come in, be among us. To all who are just getting started, to all who long to go deeper, to all with tender places needing care, come in, be among us. To all the ones who have healed and have care to give, for those who are curious and hungry to learn, for those who know that they have something to teach. Come in, be among us. For the ones who are just beginning to suspect that they might nurture others becoming. To the young and the old, the innocent and the jaded, the fresh of mind and the deeply steeped. There is room here for each and every one of you. Come in, be among us. Wherever you are on your spiritual journey, no matter who you are, the people you love, how you look, what you can or cannot do, you are welcome here, just as you are in this community of care and concern. Come in, be among us. We will continue our conversation at coffee hour immediately following the service in the fellowship hall. Welcome, and let us worship together.
Our call to worship this morning is from Elizabeth M. Strong. Out of the earth rises light, rises life, rises spring, rises Easter. May we join with the miracles that are life and enter into it with lightness and joy. Out of the Spirit rises faith, rises hope, rises love. May we join with the miracle that is Easter time and enter into life with hope and love. Let us resurrect with spring. Let us resurrect with the Spirit and enter into renewed life as we gather into our time of worship together this Easter morning.
Our chalice lighting this morning is from Michelle Collins. We light this flame for what is not yet known, for the questions that stretch us, the hopes that whisper, and the courage that flickers on uncertain days. We kindle this flame for beginnings that are only just becoming. Please join me in our affirmation, which is printed on the back of your order of service and projected on the screen behind me. Love is the doctrine of our church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in harmony with the earth. Thus do we covenant together. I invite you to rise in body or spirit and join us in singing our opening hymn, number 268 in the gray hymnal, Jesus Christ is risen today.
So I'd like to know who would like to see what's in our wonder box this morning. We call it a wonder box because we wonder what's inside. Oh my goodness, a very enthusiastic person here. All right, go ahead. Okay, what is it? It's a butterfly. And man, could you just hold it up for everybody to see? So why would we have what's so big about a butterfly this time of year? Why would we have a butterfly? there's a lot of there. It's spring, and we see a lot of butterflies in spring, right? It's also has to do with the Easter story, because on Easter, the story goes that Christ rose from the dead, and butterflies kind of do that in some ways too. We'll talk about that in a second. And also that it represents peace, and I think that's pretty cool. All right, helper, can you go have a seat? So I'm gonna put up, if we can put up the life cycle of a butterfly. Okay, so what happens in slide 1? What's going on there? Yeah, there's the egg, and then the egg hatches, and what's going on in number 2? Okay, again. There's a caterpillar. Oh my goodness. Yeah, well, yeah, we were saying that it eats and eats a lot in number 2, and then it spins a chrysalis in number 3, and then I think it goes without saying, it comes out of the chrysalis, right, to be the adult number 4. But tell me more about number 3. I might have to ask our older youth, what is going on inside number 3? Do you know? What is it? Yeah, it's going through metamorphosis. And can you get even more details? Like, what is going on there? Does the caterpillar, does it just sort of like the legs pop out from the caterpillar's body? Do you know what's going on?
So what happens is inside of there, it's hard and protective. It pretty much turns into like a soup almost, and it rebuilds into a butterfly.
Excellent. Yes, it's exactly what I was looking for in it. I knew it would be you telling me this. It kind of turns into a soup. All the cells are digested, except for a couple of them called imaginal cells. And it kind of turns into a soup, and then it reforms as the adult butterfly. And there's something in there called imaginal cells, which are destined to become the wings and eyes and a fancy respiratory system, but not all of it. And so it's pretty neat. Now, I bring this up because it is a holiday today. There's been a number of holidays if you were here last week, but sometimes life can get hard, right? So I know that when I hit hard times, I like to think of, I get inspiration from nature, and the butterfly turning into goo, and then the caterpillar turning into goo, and then coming out as a butterfly is kind of inspirational for me. And life is like that. We have hard times, we have moments when we feel stuck or unsure, or we don't know what's next. So we're gonna do something together. So in your seats, or right in front of you or behind you, there might be a butterfly cutout, and some pens, and a pink paper to tell you what to do. We're gonna give you just a few minutes to write or draw on one wing of your paper butterfly, something that represents a disappointment, a change, or something that has ended for you. And folks, I'll get you some in the front. And so it could be something like, maybe like for us up front, maybe a best friend moved away. And on the other side of the butterfly, meaning the other wing, maybe you write about something that can come out of it, the possibility of something coming out of it. Maybe some hope you have, some healing you have, or what might come next. Like, if you have a friend that moves away, well, maybe you could talk to your parents about using Google Meet, and you could keep contact with them, right, online. Or maybe you could take a vacation to the place your old friend moved. So there's always possibilities. So Lucas is gonna play us just a few minutes of music. So on one side, put a challenge. And on the other side, the possibilities that could come out of that challenge. All right. Now, this is a kind of a complicated question, you know, a challenge and then maybe some possibilities that come out of that challenge. And I want you to keep the butterflies with you. You can write on them during the service, and you can put them back in the basket at the end. And I bet you might be inspired by what Reverend Chris has to say during the sermon to maybe help you think of some possibilities. So there's a pretty popular meme going around right now about if you're a mess wrapped up in blankets right now, keep going. And I just want you to keep in mind that maybe, just maybe, you can find something or imagine something better. Just like the way those imaginal discs in the caterpillar goo can turn into something new in the butterfly, you can imagine new possibilities when you're facing hard times. So, all right, so I appreciate all your attention and all your help. If you wouldn't mind grabbing your buckets, we are gonna go ahead and sing you out to your rooms now. Oh. Here, come here. Yes, come on. Okay, we're gonna walk real slow till they. Yes. We're gonna walk real slow. Ready?
Ourselves how many gifts we have to offer. We give to remember that we are part of something bigger than ourselves. We give because we believe in music and sacred space. We give with the faith that together we have enough. As a reminder, this week all non-pledge donations will go to support our April Share the Plate partner, Texas UGEM. You can also donate to Share the Plate throughout the month on the Realm Connect app or online. Thank you to our members and friends who give and pledge electronically. If you'd like to give electronically, you can do so via Realm Connect or online at horizonuu.org/donate. The offering will now be joyfully given and received. Thank you for your generosity. planning this service and Reverend Chris told me the theme of my reflection, I kind of chuckled ruefully because I can certainly relate to the first part, how crisis can lead to new possibilities. As many of you may know, my family has gone through a huge personal crisis for almost a year. For those of you who don't know, my husband Alan suffered a major, massive stroke and almost died on May 3rd of last year. He's well on his way to recovery, and although it has been easy, the support of this church and other friends and family has certainly made it more bearable. I've been racking my brain because I really couldn't think of too many possibilities after this crisis. I have had the time to teach my sons how to cook and clean better so they can be good spouses some days, so that's something. It just didn't seem big enough. Really, rather than possibilities, I couldn't stop thinking about silver linings and the possibilities that arise from those silver linings. For me, the biggest silver lining of Alan's stroke was the emotional, financial, and gastronomical support I got from family, local and long-distance friends, neighbors, and of course, this community of church friends. Horizon really and truly is a beloved community for me and my family. As soon as word of his stroke got out, Horizon sprang into action. Reverend Chris was the first of many people to call me. They called me while I was in the waiting room during Alan's brain surgery. My friend Ellen Bratton was in charge of neighborhood groups, and she set up a meal train, and so many of our church members went above and beyond to supply us with meals for months. Other church members provided me with resources, advice, financial help, and emotional support. I don't think I could have gotten through all this without all of you, truly. But I'd like to talk about silver linings and other crises. There are some that absolutely have none, like school shootings or wars, but there are huge crises that do. The pandemic is my favorite example. It was a horrific experience that still seems surreal, but it really happened. The world shut down for 2 years because of a virus, and it brought out the best and the worst in people. Shocker, once it benefited them, businesses everywhere could carry on just fine with their employees not in the office. We could use Zoom or Teams or DocuSign or YouTube from the privacy of our homes, and it was seamless. Parents of young children suddenly realized that teaching their kids was not as easy as the teachers made it look. Church staff worked overtime to figure out how to broadcast their services so congregants could stay safe and feel connected. And suddenly, there were demonstrations all over social media of correct hand washing techniques. Because, much to our surprise and dismay and retroactive horror, we found out that quite a few people walking amongst us did not know how to wash their hands. I did get a new possibility, kind of, out of COVID. I realized in April of 2020 that the law firm I was working for made it clear they didn't care if I lived or died. So along with about a third of their staff, I found another job and left. It took 3 more jobs until I found my current employer that allows us to work from home whenever we need to. In fact, after Alan's stroke, I was given permission to work from home indefinitely. The lockdown also showed us how life-changing clean air and water could be when suddenly people in Los Angeles and Venice, Milan, New Delhi, amongst lots of others, could all of a sudden see breathtaking views of mountains and clear waterways that have been obscured by pollution for decades. It inspired a lot of environmental groups to push even harder for change. Other immediate possibilities of COVID were that families were able to spend more time together. The roads were clearer, childcare, gas, and travel expenses went down, and as far as our dogs and cats were concerned, it was the best thing ever. Tragically, 6 years later, we backslid from all that goodwill. But I firmly believe we will get the opportunity and the possibility to fix this country. And when we do, we will start with the very silver linings I mentioned, and then some. We can incentivize businesses to let their employees work from home, reward good teachers for their hard work, reset education standards so Students learn science and civics, develop other forms of energy and phase out oil and gas, legislate vaccine requirements, eliminate usurious banking practices, set much higher standards for government officials and elections. The list of opportunities and possibilities from our current national crisis is endless in a good way, and I truly believe it will come sooner rather than later.
We now take time to honor the sorrows and joys of this community, knowing that we are all interconnected and that what affects one affects us all. A joy from the surveys, a joy to have all 4 of our kids in service today. A joy from Dawn and Samir. Our son Ramsey graduates from UNT in May and has been offered his first job as a mechanical engineer. And we light a candle this morning to honor all the joys and sorrows which have gone unspoken and reside only in our hearts. Will you please join me in the spirit of prayer or meditation in whatever way feels right with these words from Sherry Woodbury? Voice still and small, as we turn inward, we listen for you. Deep inside all this Easter morning, open our hearts to hear you in the figure of Jesus. In dark and rain, sorrow and pain, his followers continued to hear that still voice of pure love. In uncertain days after his cruel death, the memory of his words surely comforted them. The quiet voices of one another, the tender holding of one another through grief accompanied them. Through all the years, they held on to his voice and they found their own voices. Holy spark within all of us, may we too hear the voices of love. Voices that the powers would drown out even still today if they could. May we too notice the stirring of conscience, the rustling of compassion within ourselves. Whether the voice speaks to us of our neighbor who is hungry, or the young people yearning to be accepted as they are, or the tragedies unfolding overseas, let us not shut it out. The voice of truth and courage sings through all the years when we are open to hear that voice and to be that voice. It matters not how long it has been dormant in us. The voice still and small can be resurrected at any time. Easter is listening, hearing, heeding, and being that voice. Let us celebrate it thus. Blessed be.
A reading by Scott Taylor. We dishonor the Easter story by making it smaller than it is. This is no "the sun will come up tomorrow" story. This is no carpe diem call to suck more joy out of each day. This is no "but look, the glass is half full" kind of hope. Quite the contrary. This is a story about what is possible when the glass has been totally shattered, when our lives have been ripped to shreds, when we've been thrown into a living hell. And it's a story that says, even then, you can come back out if you believe. And right there is the rub, the part we so often miss, the part that says it all depends on how big we can believe. Don't you see, this isn't just a story out to offer us hope, it's also a story that doesn't let us off the hook. There's a stern warning there, a compassionate but clear condemnation about the way we tragically allow others to shrink our imaginations. Its message isn't just about God being triumphant, it's about how our dinky stories are what keep us mired in death. It's a story that says, your belief needs to be braver and bigger. It's a story that almost desperately pleads, please try, for your sake, yes, but for others' sake too. Because if you can call up the courage to imagine that unimaginable possibilities are on the way, even the most soul-crushing stones can be rolled away.
Every grain of sand that's lost upon the shore will eventually roll home. Every leaf on every tree that falls to autumn leaves a greenish stem to grow, becoming the leaves that adorn every tree in spring. Every wave that breaks the surface of the deep, to know a moment in the sun, just as suddenly returns to twilight sleep. Everyone lives only seconds and it's done. It's only the way that the ultimate mystery spun. Every breath you take, you borrow from air, giving back some part of you. Everything that lives has a birthright from the stars. Curtain passes through the person who you are. And though the distance is far, you return to your mother's sky as a star. Every breath you take, you borrow from air, giving back some part of you. that lives has a birthright from the stars. Curtain passes through the person who you are. And though the distance is far, you return to your mother's sky as a star.
I must confess to some frustration over how some progressives handle Easter. Over the years, I've seen so many celebrate other holidays renowned for their own miracles, but there just isn't room in their hearts for what has been, for much of Christian history, the most important holiday of the faith. I've joked before at Christmas time that personally, given my experience as a hospital chaplain, I find the idea of a virgin birth more unbelievable than someone coming back from death. Now, some of this can be attributed to trauma from religious past or a misunderstanding of how myth works. After all, despite what fundamentalists of all theological stripes believe, myth was never meant to be interpreted as a literal account of a historical happening, but for the meaning that lies within to shed light on the human condition. But still, even when you factor in this understandable reluctance, there's just something about faith that many struggle with in a way that we don't with other interfaith holidays. In fact, there have been more than one UU congregation that celebrates the tradition of the flower ceremony on Easter as a substitute, which becomes really awkward in cold climates when Easter falls in March, and it's very clear the flowers want to be left alone. This tradition does irk me, especially given that it's been told to me many times that Unitarian Universalist minister Maya Kopek, widow of the famous Unitarian minister Norbert Kopek, who held the first flower ceremony, objected strongly to Unitarian Universalist congregations celebrating the flower ceremony instead of Easter. As the story was told to be, Maya said that Norbert loved Easter and would be horrified to know that a ceremony he helped create had displaced another holiday he loved on the interfaith calendar. And if you have joined the congregation since June and have no idea what I'm talking about with flower ceremony, come back in June. It's fun. We celebrate it when Kopek did. Now, to be fair, I've never been able to find the source of Maya Kopek's quote, and I don't know why Norbert loved Easter so much. I kind of would love to go to Prague one day, maybe during a sabbatical, and just root through the archives of his papers. But it does lead me to pause and ask, do Unitarian Universalists lose out on a profound message when we sideline Easter? The answer may be found in how religious liberals have approached the holiday in general. Flower ceremony, for example, is about life coming up around us, the way new life is evident in the wider world, just as it is in our religious communities. But I'm not sure we always give Easter credit for how dark a holiday it is. We dishonor the Easter story by making it smaller than it is, the Reverend Scott Taylor says in our reading this morning. This is no "the sun will come up tomorrow" story. This is no carpe diem call to suck more joy out of each day. This is no "but look, the glass is half full" kind of hope. Quite the contrary. This is a story about what is possible when the glass has been totally shattered. Indeed, if we think about the situation among the disciples following Good Friday, it was as bleak as it possibly could be. Jesus had been crucified. I can imagine them sitting around thinking, what's next? Have I wasted my years following a man who turned out to be a false prophet? Has the Roman Empire smashed the hopes we had for a new kingdom ruled by love? But with the reappearance of Jesus, first to a number of women and then to his disciples, there seems to be a new hope. Rather than possibility being destroyed, it seems like they were just getting started. But the Apostle Thomas, often humorously cited as the patron saint of Unitarian Universalists for his skepticism, missed the first appearance of Jesus and might have thought they were insane. He says he won't believe it's true until he can touch Jesus' wounds. When he finally gets his wish and believes, Jesus tells him, "Have you believed because you have seen me? Blessed are those who have seen and yet have come to believe." What if Thomas's sin here wasn't that he wanted proof, but that his imagination was just too small for the possibilities that might be birthed in the midst of despair? Scott Taylor sure seems to think so. When our lives have been ripped to shreds, he says, when we've been thrown into a living hell, and it is a story that says, even then, you can come back out if you believe. Let's talk about Norbert Koppek again for a moment. When Germany invaded his homeland, he had the opportunity to flee to the United States at the invitation of the American Unitarian Association. And indeed, his wife did choose to flee. But Norbert stayed in Prague. It would be easy to say this was foolish. It would not be everyone's choice. He was opposed to everything the Nazis believed and had publicly spoken against Adolf Hitler. The risks seemed great to stay put when Czechoslovakia was largely being described as a public prison, a place where there was little freedom and certainly no opportunity to legally voice opposition to the regime. The Reverend Dr. Peter Szemjowski says in a sermon marking Koppek's 140th birthday that the minister had no desire to become a martyr. He simply knew that his mission in life was to stay in Prague and lead the congregation he helped found. He knew the dangers, but they did not matter to him again. Perhaps he was thinking of his congregants who did not have the ability to escape. Maybe he felt called by God to stay. Or maybe he had enough imagination to think that despite the shape of the world, he might just be able to make a difference in his own way. The Nazis be damned. The remarkable thing is that even after Koppek was arrested and taken to Dachau, the fire within him stayed strong to the end. Survivors of Dachau remembered that despite being ill and weak, Norbert kept up his efforts to the end, spreading hope and encouraging other prisoners to imagine that they might just survive until ultimately he was put to death on October 30th, 1942. I'm sure if Koppek was here today, he would feel I was being too strong comparing his life to the story of Jesus and the resurrection. However, like Jesus, he was willing to keep going despite the danger. He had the audacity to believe that everything might just turn out okay. He was wrong, but he might just as well have been right. Even though he ultimately lost his life for it, his legacy is that of a man who served his people and never gave up to the bitter end. And I think part of that's why so many people love the flowers ceremony. I wonder what Jesus or Chapek would say about the times we're living in. I certainly have no right to tell anyone what choices they need to make in their lives. I'm sure no one would have thought less of Chapek if he had come back to the United States and had a nice, cushy job at some New England UU church. But he was clear what he had to do, and that opened up possibilities to him to minister to those who needed a good word in troubled times. The point isn't that anyone needs to put themselves in danger, but that the Christian resurrection story points to a truth often overlooked. Even in our darkest days, still there is hope. Still there is possibility. As long as you and I and everyone else breathes, there are still choices to make, even when it seems there are none. I've obviously been alluding to larger global and national socio-political issues, but it works in our personal lives as well. I once remember well a young man who had seemingly given up on life, who had given in to despair and depression because life hadn't turned out the way he wanted. They were in a dead-end job and wondered why they were even born. But one day there was a spark in his heart, and he realized he still had decisions to make. Things didn't turn out the way he wanted, but they did turn out in a way that life could be influential, could bring hope. He realized the truth Desmond Tutu was expressing when he said, hope is being able to see that there is light despite all the darkness. I'm keeping most of the details of that story vague because I suspect many, if not most of us, have had a similar time when it seemed like all was lost. But then new possibilities open up in the midst of what seemed like the end. This is one of the deep truths of the Easter story. As Scott Taylor puts it, it's a story that almost desperately pleads, please try. For your sake, yes, but for others' sake too. Because if you can call up the courage to imagine that unimaginable possibilities are on the way, even the most soul-crushing stones can be rolled away. Because whether you stay in your current situation or flee for opportunities elsewhere, still there are possibilities waiting to be born within you. And sometimes it's difficult to see them for the darkness all around. It can feel like we're held within prisons, sometimes mental prisons of our own making. But still there are choices, whether to bring hope or despair to the world, and how best to live our lives at times when it seems like the whole universe is against it. I'm reminded of the story of a man named Tom Mauser. In 1999, Tom's 15-year-old son Daniel was killed in the Columbine school shooting. He and his family were absolutely devastated, and not a day has gone by that they haven't wished that they could have Daniel back. And yes, there was a time of grief and a time of wallowing, as there should. But what Tom did was quite amazing. Tom took his grief and saw the possibility that could be born within it. Could he go out into the world and lead a movement of parents who didn't want to see their own children killed in such violence? Could he lead? Since Daniel's death, Tom has very courageously been arrested many times in civil disobedience, trying to get new laws passed for gun control. He continues to this day, along with his wife and daughters. And I suspect he'll continue to the day he dies, or we pass gun control legislation sensibly, whichever comes first. Tom Mauser was here today, I would not tell him that Daniel was meant to die. I would not tell him that it was okay or that it was preordained. What I would tell him is that I'm awed by the way he was able to take a tragedy that would destroy so many of us and turn it into a way to influence and change the world, because he was able to recognize just what could come. What were the possibilities? If we're honest, we're never in complete control of our lives, even when it seems like we are. There are just so many forces in the world clashing against each other constantly. And yet, that is the ultimate paradox of Easter. Hope is never completely lost unless we let it be. The possibilities are too endless to know how our final chapters will read. Maybe, if we're audacious enough, the story of our lives might just have, if not a happy ending, an ending full of meaning. As Emily McIntyre once put it, all is not lost until all is lost. And in my experience, humans are too good at thinking that all has been lost when there is so much hope and beauty and sacredness in the world all the time. This isn't to say that there aren't bad things happening. It is to say that as long as we have choices, we might just be able to find a way to make it through. For as the Protestant theologian Martin Luther once put it, even if I knew tomorrow the world would go to pieces, still I will plant my apple tree. May it be so.
We extinguish this flame, but not our commitment to welcome radically, love boldly, grow spiritually, and serve courageously. This we do because we envision a beloved community filled with compassion, helping all to thrive in a just world. I would like to invite you to rise in body or spirit and join us in singing our closing hymn, number 95, in the great hymnal, There Is More Love Somewhere.
I'm gonna keep on
benediction is by Michelle Collins. The flame is extinguished, but its work continues in our small acts, in our willingness to begin again, and in the way we love each other into courage. May we choose to take another step, even when we can't see the entire way. We take the fire within us and share it with others as we go. Amen. Blessed be, and go in